Drought, welcome to Horsehead Bookends for another Gaming Friday. If you haven't done so already, please click on that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You will be alerted anytime I upload a new video. This week, I had a bit of a issue trying to figure out what game I wanted to talk about and possibly do a quick playthrough and review of. And I'm not sure I can do an actual quick playthrough of it because of the actual game weight. It's a very difficult game. It takes a good time to learn how to play it so you know all the moves available to you in the game. But I decided I was going to do a quick review of it anyway, and that game is Feudum by Boardgames, made by Mark Swanson. Now, Feudum is a 2 to 5 player hand management, resource management, area control type of game. You are trying to take over and control 6 different areas of King Daniel's land, at the same time paying homage to 6 separate guilds that all run cyclical. So when you're pushing one thing out of one guild, it goes into the next guild, at the same time building your army to control locations and paying homage to the king every round, so you are not disloyal. Now, this game, I say it's the game that makes people cry. And that's because there are a lot of moving parts. It is a very heavy game to learn and to teach. So to get other players up to speed, it's really difficult. I found it very hard to learn it myself. I found it very hard to teach. Making the actual, for me, the learning process took multiple hours. The teaching process, I can probably teach the game in under 2 hours, which is really long. And I still don't do a very good job explaining all the little intricacies of the game. So, for this game, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up on the table, and I'm just kind of going to point out the different locations and the different guilds and sort of give a quick rundown of how to play as fast as possible, so it doesn't waste that much time. However, I will put the link below. I believe that the heavy cardboard playthrough is probably one of the best if you want to learn how to play this game. I watched it multiple times before I attempted to play and to teach, and it really gave me a good handle on how everything works together in the game of Feudum. So let's head over to the table. We're going to check it out, and then we'll come back here and I'll let you know what I think about it, pros and cons and everything else. So let's head over there now. Okay, so here we have Feudum set up for a 3-player game. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that I do have some extra parts that are not in the normal retail version of the game. I do have the Kickstarter version, and I do have some of the extra parts that were available, for example, the neoprene mat, and some of the extra vehicles, which you can see on the far end of the table. Now, if this game looks intimidating to you, it should. It's a very complex game, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually extremely easy and extremely fun to play. So I have some cheat sheets with me, so I'm going to read off certain things so I can explain how the game is played. I'm probably not going to play a few rounds because the game is super intense and it's really hard to do it just by yourself, unless you're learning, but it's a big time commitment. So let's start first. As you can see, around the board, 3 on the left and 3 on the right, you have your guilds. Now, your guilds have 3 different actions that you can do. One is a trade action, which is available to any player. One is a pull action, where you're taking stuff from the guild in front of it and pulling it into the guild you're using, but you need to be a journeyman, meaning you have to have one of your little pawns in the 3 victory point space, which is right in the middle. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera. Then finally, there's a push option, which you can actually push items to the next guild, and you can do that once you are a guild master. And at the start of the game, when you first select your pawn, which is this little dice right here, let it focus in. Maybe? No? There we go. You get to select what guild you will automatically start as a guild master in. For example, the red player is a guild master in the Knights Guild, the blue player is a guild master in the Merchants Guild, and the pink player is the guild master in the Priest Guild, and they all do different things. For example, we'll just start here at the Farm Guild and go around clockwise. The Farmers Guild, you could, for the trade action, you receive 1 shilling or 1 food for every 2 goods sent from your farm to the Farmers Guild. If you pull from the Merchants Guild, you can take, oh no, I'm sorry, if you pull, you're pulling from the guild before it, so you'll be pulling beads from the Priest, and you can draw a bead and you place it onto a chicken, and if you get a sum of 5 or more, you score for that. And if you push goods into the Merchant Guild, you can push 5 goods to fill up 1 to 3 rows or columns, and you will get money that was in the farmer's purse. So a quick rundown: the Farmers Guild deals with goods. The Merchant Guild, you can buy trade goods and move them back and forth to the farm, or move them into the Alchemist Guild. The Alchemist Guild, you can buy vessels right there to help you move around the board faster. The Knights Guild, you can get more influence markers, which are these little hexagonal little markers. You can also control the 2 monsters, the Sea Serpent and the Behemoth, which I'm not going to get into now, but that helps with taking over and controlling certain lands. Then you have the Noble Guild, which, using the King Seal, it helps you get a lot more victory points. And then finally the Monks Guild, you can pay for the Monks beads and actually move the beads, turn them into more of the I guess the crown markers, or you move them over into the farmer, and once you get a few beads on these chickens, you score some more victory points. Like I said, a lot of information. That was a very terrible quick rundown of the guilds. There's a lot of information. There's lots of player aids out there too that help this game move along. Now, the way the game plays is everyone picks 4 actions. You have a deck of 11 cards. Each one of those cards has a certain action on it. So when it's time to play the actions, everyone selects 4 cards out of the 11 to play them. Now, they all do different things, including there's one with a repeat card where you can do the same move or the same action again, but certain cards you're not allowed to. For example, you have your improve card where you can improve your locations. Repeat, which gives you the same action again. Your guild card, where you can perform a guild action, a trade, a push, or a pull. Your influence, where you can actually add your influence markers onto the board. As you add more influence, depending on where you are, you will actually increase in that guild. So that's how you go up on the guild. Harvest, where depending on what your farm produced, all these green are farms. Once you send them to the farm, you can score points for those. Explore, where you can take King's Writ cards, which are up top, which give you certain bonuses, either to score immediately or at the end of the game. Migrate, where you can add more pawns to the board or remove pawns back from the board. Tax, where you will get money, you'll get shillings for how many houses you have influence in. Defend. Then you have Defend and Conquer, which are both used to actually take over other people's lands or fight the Behemoth. And then finally just a move action, where you can actually move your pawns based on how many pawns you have on the board, and if there is actual a supply on the board, you can pick that up. Once everyone has taken their action, you need to feed your pawns. Okay, when it's time to feed your pawns, if you don't have a piece of sulfur in the wine barrels, you have to spend 1 food cube per pawn that you have out. Otherwise, if you do have sulfur in the wine barrels, it's good for 2 rounds. You can feed your pawns. Now, once you've fed your pawns, we go to the roll progress die. Now, this blue die right here, you would roll it, and it shows a picture of one of the 6 lands throughout the kingdom. When you do roll it, you have to pull off the corresponding epic tiles. Now, the way the game progresses is based on this chart right here on the board. When certain progress tiles are shown, that's when the epic moves from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and at the end of 5, the game is over and final scoring begins. Now, the first player rolls the die, and for example, I would have water, and I would take this tile. Now, if I had, I think that's sand. If I had influence on the sand, I would get 3 food, I think that is. If it's not food, it is sulfur, but I think it's food. After that, you advance the epic marker and score it if possible. You would do any of your scoring, and then the first player marker would move to the second player along with the progress die, and everything would happen all over again. And gameplay would continue until you hit the end of the 5th epic, where you would do the final scoring for the game. And you would score the epic. Since you're in epic 1, you would score for that, which is your guild status, your landscapes, your active regions, things like that. Now, as the epics move on, you have to do certain different things, including disloyalty, where you actually lose points if you're not covering certain spaces or meeting certain criteria. You'll start replenishing landscapes with items, and you'll also replenish guilds, things like that. So there really is a lot going on in the game, and it's so much that it's not something that I can really sit down and do a quick playthrough right now, because the game is kind of long. So let's head back to the office, and we will talk about we'll talk about Feudum, and I'll let you know what I think. Okay, so that was Feudum by Oddbird Games and Mark Swanson. I apologize again that I didn't get to play a few rounds to just give you that visual interpretation of how a round plays out. But the game is very long, very time consuming, just because there's a lot of choices, there's a lot of things to do. Again, I highly recommend Heavy Cardboard's playthrough of it, and I'll post that link below. It's really good. It helped me learn the game. I think as far as heavy games go, if you are a fan of a heavier Euro-style game and you haven't played Feudum yet, I highly recommend checking it out. It is probably one of the heaviest games I own, and I absolutely love it. I do have some other heavy games along the same style. Some people say that are actually more difficult, like Anachrony, but I don't really see it. I found Feudum a real challenge to actually learn how to play it, and the setup alone isn't too. It takes a while too. It's about a 30-45 minute setup, I think, for 3 players. And you'll see that I have I'm not sure if you saw in the video, but the Meeple Realty Organizer, which makes it really handy to set them up too. So I'll post that link below as well. Now, as far as player count, I think with 2 players, it's a great learning / teaching experience. So if you have someone who wants to learn how to play it, try to just have it at 2 people, because it's really good and you have a lot of options to explore, and you really learn how all the guilds interact with each other with that whole push-pull mechanic based on where you're standing in the guild is. When you get, I think it plays the best at 3. It's not too crowded. The time doesn't take too long. There's not much analysis paralysis, and everyone has a decent time playing. It's still, you're looking at a 2-hour 2 to 3 hour game time. Now, if you're playing with 4 players, it's going to be a lot longer of a game, and it does play up to 5. I haven't had a chance to play with 5 players yet, but I think it would really extend the game out to a level of time that I do not want to commit to playing a game, if that makes any sense. However, there also is a solo mode available, which is a lot of fun, where you are fighting the Queen's army. I believe the storyline is the king was turned into the behemoth by the queen, and you need to go and create these feudums to actually fight the queen as her army starts growing and trying to take over the land. And I believe you have to kill the behemoth too at the end to win. But it's fun. The solo game's fun. The only negative things I have to say about the game really is just the amount of time it takes to learn it. It is a big commitment. But as I said earlier, if you put the time in, put the commitment in, and learn the game, you will be rewarded with a great, heavy Euro area control style game, which is, it's a lot of fun, and there's so many different paths to victory as far as getting victory points, and I think it's great, and it's a game that I will keep in my collection for a very long time. I just wish it was a game that I can teach more people, but it is extremely intimidating to play and to teach at the same time. But if you can, I definitely suggest checking it out whenever you can. Try to get at least one playthrough in your life, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll either absolutely love it or you'll absolutely hate it. It's there's really not much of a middle road there. So if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please don't forget to click on subscribe and ring the notification bell. You'll get alerted whenever I upload new videos. Any questions or comments, please post them below. If you want to see me go in depth on something else within the game Feudum, let me know as well, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later.